This police chase through oncoming traffic on Canada's busiest highway has sparked questions about the safety of these pursuits. That chase ended with 4 people dead, including 2 grandparents, their 3-month-old grandson, and the suspect. The news prompted some of you to ask us about police chases in Canada and how officers are trained.
We don't have the right balance right now to ensure that we don't have innocent people killed because of the actions of police in engaging in pursuits and continuing with pursuits.
That former police officer is talking about the risk assessment that officers have to apply before deciding whether to chase a suspect who's fleeing in a vehicle or not. Provincial legislation lays out the criteria for this, so it varies depending on where you live, but most of the policies across Canada are similar. In Ontario, there's a 3-part test. Number 1, the officer must believe that a criminal offense has been or is about to be committed, and a chase is necessary for identifying the vehicle or the person.
If you know who the suspect is right away, or the likelihood of identifying who the suspect is at a later time, you must discontinue that pursuit.
Let's say they got a license number and they recognize the driver. There would be very few reasons to get involved in a dangerous situation by continuing. If that person had a hostage or something, that could be a problem. Let's say they assumed the person was drunk. Then they would have more justification to continue that pursuit.
Number 2, the officer must determine that there are no alternatives.
For instance, was it a rush situation where they would not have had time to use the helicopter appropriately or in some valuable way? That will be judged versus was it something that wasn't rushed where they might have been able to use it? Was it even available?
And number 3, the officer must conclude that the immediate need to identify or apprehend the suspect outweighs the risk to public safety.
And that's not just carte blanche. Just because it's a robbery doesn't mean he's going to hurt somebody if he's not pursued. What were the road conditions? What were the weather conditions? What were the traffic conditions? Were there pedestrians? Were there other vehicles on the road? Was the timing of it safe or unsafe compared to other times of the day?
These are all things that need to be assessed in split seconds. And if an officer starts a pursuit, they have to notify their communication center or dispatch. Then the police service is required to have a supervisor monitor the pursuit. During the Highway 401 police pursuit, the risk to public safety was discussed on Provincial Police Radio.
Just want to make sure the Durham sergeant's aware that they're driving the opposite direction. Someone's going to get hurt.
In Ontario, police recruits get 18 hours of training in vehicle operations, but that covers more than just pursuits. And police services can give their officers additional vehicle training.
I've outfitted and trained our officers when I was with Vancouver Police Department on different techniques to stop the pursuit within the first 2 blocks. And at that point, the supervisor has to make that decision whether it's continuing on or not.
This political scientist who researches policing says he thinks there's too much emphasis on tactical training rather than scenario-based training. Scenarios where officers must decide under what circumstances they would engage in a pursuit and how they weigh the risks.
These are like classic issues where your heart wants to chase. Your brain should have all sorts of red signals about, stop right now.
A study conducted for the RCMP found that 77 people died in police pursuits over a 10-year period in Canada, ending in 2019. But that study was based on media reports. Pursuits that failed to make the news were not included. As for the deadly 401 crash, Ontario's police watchdog is still investigating the high-speed police pursuit. But the Special Investigations Unit has faced criticism that it's not a truly impartial oversight agency and has too many links to law enforcement. That's something the unit itself denies. In Durham region, police officers and emergency dispatchers have been instructed to complete a mandatory training course on suspect pursuits within the next 2 months. But this criminologist who specializes in high-risk police activities says one of the big problems with pursuits is getting the suspect to stop. Jeffrey Alpert says the pursuit will make the suspect focus on the police behind them instead of the road in front, creating a dangerous situation. That's why some people are calling for different policies, like limiting chases to violent crimes or banning them altogether.